So what does a Tolkien dwarf and a barnacle goose have in common? The answer we may find underwater, but we'll have to get back to that in a little bit. For now, we are going to go donate some stuff. And we're going to go donate and offer centipedes, a crab, a lionfish, ruby red dragonet, hermit crabs, an 8-armed sea star, a skunk cleaner shrimp, and of course the flower hat jellyfish that we obtained previously as well. And then we're also going to go and offer the eastern oyster over here. So let's start by going to go offer some stuff at the shrines. So we can hand in our eastern oyster here, as well as a hermit crab and a centipede. And then we can come and donate the rest. And that will be things like the centipede here, which is active at night. Really an awesome critter. I do love centipedes. I mean, a lot of people are terrified of them. And, you know, they are kind of creepy. It does ask you, does it really have 100 legs? And that's because, well, centipede, centi there referring to 100, pede, like pod, that comes from foot, so it's 100 feet. But as far as I recall, there are no actual centipede species with 100 legs in total. Instead, they usually are far fewer than 100 legs, or in some species, even more than 100 legs, but never exactly 100 legs. Now, they are venomous, not poisonous, although some you don't want to eat either, so maybe some of them are actually poisonous, but they are venomous because their front set of legs, which are right over there, have adapted to become what we call the forcipules. And they have got a venom gland right at the head there, and they can actually inject venom through their first set of legs. I mean, imagine you could pinch someone and then inject venom into them. That's what these centipedes do. Well, they are active at night because they do desiccate very easily. They dry out very easily. So yeah, they need to be active at night when it is a bit cooler and there's less risk of them drying out. We also have a crab over here, typical crab. Almost seems as though it doesn't have enough legs. I think it should have another pair of legs there. In total, they should have 10 legs, yet the crab over here only has 8, interestingly enough. We also have the lionfish, and we did encounter the lionfish previously as well. And well, my sentiments towards lionfish really depends on where we are in this game. And this game kind of has species from all over the world, so I don't know how I feel about the lionfish here. If we were in the Indian Ocean, where lionfish are indigenous, I would love these fish. But if we are off the coast of the Americas, so off the coast of the USA, also off the coast of Mexico, the Caribbean islands and Brazil as well, well, I wouldn't like these fish at all because they are highly invasive there. So yeah, my feelings about them really mixed. I don't know how to feel about them. We also have the ruby red dragonet, which is a small feisty fish. They kind of resemble a goby, although I'm not 100% sure what their closest relatives actually are. Well, then we have a hermit crab here, and we can get the hermit crabs in the part of the ocean where we are at the moment, and we'll get to there in a bit. We also have the 8-armed sea star, which I think is kind of very strange because, well, we typically associate starfish or sea stars with having 5 legs, but the 8-armed starfish can have 8 arms, but it can also have anywhere between 5 to 9 arms. And the thing about starfish and all echinoderms, the sea urchins as well, they're all related to one another. They have what we call radial symmetry. You know, with us, we can only cut ourselves along this one line for the two halves to look the same. If we cut ourselves along the waist here, that half doesn't look the same as that half. But with the echinoderms, with all organisms actually that have radial symmetry, you can cut them along multiple lines and you'll have the two halves looking the same. So this starfish here, we can cut along that line here, and this half and that half will look the same. We can cut it along that half there, and the one half will look the same as the other half. Not so with us. So we have what we call bilateral symmetry. They have radial symmetry. They are actinomorphic and we are zygomorphic. And then we also have the skunk cleaner shrimp here, which, as it says there, is the janitor of the sea. They have cleaning stations, and fish will come and visit them, and a whole bunch of different cleaner shrimp and cleaner wrasse, which is a type of fish as well. They're very territorial. They will have their fish coming to them, and, well, then they get cleaned. The shrimps here will remove dead skin cells, ectoparasites, in some cases even parasites on the gills of the fish will be cleaned by the shrimps and cleaner wrasse. And it just makes them more streamlined. It means they also don't waste energy on parasites. They actually have a better life after visiting these janitors. Alrighty, now let's donate them all to the museum over here. We also got some explosives as well as vortexinators there. Now, as you can see at the top there, we actually are getting very close to the next season. It is already the 23rd day of summer, so soon we are going to be heading over to autumn. So just 5 more days and then summer is gone and we won't be able to plant any more summer crops until we have the greenhouse. So it'll still be another 2 seasons, I believe. Before we can do that, we first have to make it through winter and offer everything at the altars before we can do that. Now, I'm not going to go down to the ocean now because you may notice here we're missing something. I don't have my sickle. I have upgraded that to the silver quality. So what we can do now though is, we should go fishing a bit. Let's go fishing. Let's see if we can catch anything interesting in the water, because I have upgraded my fishing rod to bronze quality as well, so we should be able to potentially at least catch more challenging fish. Hopefully. Let's have a look here. Oh, look at that, we caught a trout. Let's have a look. I'm not sure whether we can catch salmon or maybe an eel in the river here. They should be migrating past now. So let's have a quick little look here. There is a little fishy coming closer. What are you? I'm hoping you're a fish and not a piece of trash. No, you are indeed a fish. And we caught a red snapper. That is, I do believe, a new fish for us. Now, here's the thing with common names, like, for example, red snapper here. Okay, what species is this? So it just says red snapper, but there are multiple species that are known as red snapper. Now, I suspect this is supposed to refer to the northern red snapper, which you find in the Gulf of Mexico, extending down to the Caribbean islands and South America, but I'm not 100% sure. Additionally, that species is actually a marine species, whereas this one here, we did just catch in fresh water. So it's very difficult to know what it is. It just says that it lays eggs to reproduce. Okay, well, that's most fish, so doesn't really narrow it down, does it? Anyway, really cool. We did catch a red snapper, and as I said, I believe that is the first one we caught, so we can go and donate to that one as well. Still looking to try and catch either a salmon or another freshwater eel. Let's have a look here. Yeah, things are going much more smoothly now with that bronze fishing rod. Oh, we caught a bluegill. Bluegill sunfish. Now, they are very commonly stocked in dams. Here in South Africa, amongst other places, we do have them as well. They are exotic to South Africa, come from North America. That's where they're naturally found. But they are stocked along with bass in a lot of ponds and dams all over the country. And unfortunately, a big problem because, well, they would feed on the indigenous species and the prey that they would be feeding on. So, yeah, really isn't a good idea to introduce them into ponds and dams and stuff. Let's have a look here, see if we can catch something. That was just a piece of... Oh, trash. Yes, indeed. This, however, does look like something a little bit more substantial than a piece of trash. Indeed. Oh, it's putting up quite a fight here. Could be another red snapper, though. Does look like it could be. If it is the one that I was referring to, the northern red snapper, it is actually a vulnerable species due to overharvesting, due to overfishing, and indeed, another red snapper. Let's see if we can catch anything here by the lake. Now, this is actually where I would expect to find the bluegill. They would be hiding under the lily pads over here, so surely there should be some of them in the area as well. Oh, this is a surprisingly chilled fishy that we're catching here. And it is, a chub. It's such a funky looking fishy. Now, if you look at the chub here, you can see they are generally a silver fish with some nice red fins at the bottom there, so quite a good representation of a chub. They are a little bit more slender than this, though, and their eyes aren't quite as big relative to their body size, but you know what, artistic license and all that. Now, the chub is actually a very interesting fish. They often are found in both riffles, which are faster flowing like rapid water, and also in standing pools. So they actually have a wide tolerance of different habitats, although the eggs are very often laid in areas where there is aquatic vegetation. So as the plants photosynthesize and release oxygen into the water, while the eggs are oxygenated, which is really cool. They also will feed on anything they can. In fact, the adults have even been observed eating blackberries and elderberries from trees hanging over the river. So, yeah, surprisingly omnivorous it seems. And there we go, see, a bluegill. This is where I would really have expected to find them. Let's actually cast a line into the lily pads over here. Now, interesting with the chub, they are very popular with fishing. And they're found in Europe, in Eurasia actually. So most of Europe and parts of Asia will have chub there. They're known as the Eurasian chub. And they are very popular for angling because they bite very readily. I believe this is another chub, if I'm not mistaken. There we go, indeed it is. Now with the chub though, there have been studies done to look at microplastics in their tissue. And they found that about a quarter, or the one study that looked at that, found that about a quarter of the chub actually have microplastics in them. And the interesting thing, well, interesting in a bad way at least, is that a lot of the microplastics that were found, that is a goldfish. A lot of the microplastics that were found were actually from clothes that were washed. Little fibers, little plastic fibers that come off the clothes when they are washed. So yeah, that made their way into the food web, into the Daphnia, the water fleas that the chub would also be eating, and well then into the chub's bodies as well. As we're just trying to catch something that we would not have been able to catch with our unupgraded fishing rod. We would have had a very, very difficult time trying to catch this thing. And let's see, I do wonder what we have here. It is another red snapper. Why was this one so difficult to catch? I mean, really. Anyway, now we are just going to donate the red snapper here, the chub, and the bluegill sunfish as well. And then we are just going to ship the other fish to a fish farm upstate. And we're going to sell a whole bunch of stuff. And now we're just going to go to sleep so that we can wake up, go get our sickle, and then head down to the ocean. Of course, we did level up our fishing, so we'll spend another skill point there and made quite a bit of money there. It's raining, which is perfect. It means we don't have to water the plants. So we can just harvest our last crops here. We've got star fruit, we got some more tomatoes, we got more radishes. Now the thing is that we will not be planting anything further now. We only have 4 more days before summer ends, and there are no crops, at least for summer that I could see, that mature within 4 days. So we're just going to drop off the last of our crops here. Another thing is we cannot actually let our chickens out, so we do need to go and get some hay for them, because otherwise they're not going to find food. And as you can see there, I have upgraded my hay to bronze quality so that we can actually get better quality eggs over here. And you can see there, a bronze egg, normal boring old egg, another bronze egg, and another boring old egg. We did have a little froggy jumping down there. There is another frog calling there, and probably going to jump into the water in a moment. Another little froggy singing over here. I wonder, there we go, indeed it will jump into the water when it spots us, which makes sense when frogs are notoriously skittish. Which, you know, if you're relatively low on the food web, you would also be skittish. Another flyer, really? Why is there pollution in the lake here? Of course, it makes sense that there would be pollution. A lot of things accumulate in lakes and wetlands and water bodies like this. And here comes a bigger fishy. This is not going to be trash. And it's raining as well, so I don't know what we can catch when it's raining in summer. We'll see now. And it is a snakehead. Oh, that is awesome. Now, I'm quite sure this snakehead here is the northern snakehead, which is indigenous to Eastern Asia. So in China it's found, it's also found in North Korea and South Korea and some of the other countries in that area as well. But it has established feral populations or invasive populations in Central Asia as well as North America. And the reason I say this is actually the northern snakehead is kind of the appearance over here with the blotches here, but also this flattened head over here. They do have quite a bit of a flattened head. The front part, at least, is, flattened. They should have the mouth extending actually further behind the eye, actually, but you know what? Artistic license. So this is a really interesting fish. It does say it's a fierce predator, so yeah, they are predatory fish. They feed almost exclusively on other fish, but they have been known to eat crustaceans and other animals in the freshwater rivers where they occur as well. They're actually perfectly adapted for areas with stagnant water and water that may become anaerobic, in other words, not have oxygen in it, because they can actually breathe oxygen directly from the air. They've got a special lung-like structure, basically a bronchial chamber, that allows them to take oxygen directly from the air. So they can gulp air and in the process then get their oxygen. They don't have to have the oxygen dissolved in the water for them to actually breathe it, which is really cool and also terrifying because it does mean that they can spread relatively easily from one area to another. Especially the young ones, the smaller ones, they're able to actually wriggle overland from one pond to another. So you may introduce them into a pond and then they escape because they can wriggle overland to find other greener pastures or, I guess, better ponds for them. So yeah, not a fish you want to actually introduce accidentally to an area because they can spread. And especially considering that there are such specialized predators and they can take out a lot of indigenous fish if they were to invade an area. So in Pennsylvania, for example, they are present, and some other parts of the US, they're also present. And that is actually a big problem. Now, this one, we are going to go donate at the museum, but first, lest we forget, we're just going to come and grab our sickle/scythe, because this will allow us to really clear the ocean much more effectively. We do have another little hermit crab right over there. We're not going to catch it. I have already donated and offered hermit crabs, but it does not produce its own shell that it carries on its back. I've talked about this before in Empires of the Undergrowth, for example, but what they will do is they will just go and find a shell that is suitable for them, or the right size for them to actually move into, and then they just put their softish bodies into those shells. And those shells would be of marine snails, for example, any other little critter, in some cases even bottle caps and man-made stuff. Anything that can cover their softer abdomens or backsides. Now we still need to find one more little thingamajig, and I have no idea where it can be. I have cleared most of the area here, yet I haven't... there we go. I have now been able to find it. Let's grab 2 of the silver kelps there. Again, not grabbing everything. Hello, hermit crab. While that is opening up, I am looking for something in particular. And that is the thing that I referred to earlier with what does a Tolkien dwarf and a goose have in common? And here it is. The answer is a gooseneck barnacle. And who would have thought that this is the answer to my riddle? Now, why on earth is this the answer to the riddle? It boils down to the name here, gooseneck barnacles, or also goose barnacles, and then also the barnacle geese. So where did they both get their names from? So this is from the medieval era, so from medieval Europe, and up until the early 1800s. One must remember that people didn't know about bird migration. So there were many theories. Just checking where we need to go. We need to probably head on over there. Oh yeah, we still need to go clear the area where the little trail is going. But anyway, people didn't know about where birds went during winter. There were many theories to try and explain that. One thing was that a lot of things like swallows, no, they actually just hibernate under lakes, so underwater. That is where they are during winter. Turns out, no, that's definitely not what they do. They will die if they try and do that. But another theory was that, well, things like barnacled geese, which were never seen breeding in temperate Europe, because, well, they don't breed there. They breed off the coast of Siberia and Greenland and other places, you know, that's where they breed. They never breed in temperate Europe. So the questions there were, okay, where do they go during winter, but also where do they breed? Because they were never seen breeding in Europe. So the explanation was that no, they come from big trees. And what happens is that you have got these barnacles, the goose barnacles or gooseneck barnacles in this case now, growing, in this case here, growing on those trees. And then barnacle geese will sprout from those barnacles growing on the trees. And if you look at them, yeah, they kind of resemble. There's some resemblance there at least. But of course now we know, no. Barnacles do not yield geese. But at that time it was like, okay, well, yeah, this makes sense. Checks out, must be. They kind of have a little resemblance there. The barnacles, we find them, and maybe they like the egg or something of the barnacle geese. And barnacle geese, well, they don't breed here in Europe, so must be that they come from barnacles on trees. Now back to the riddle I asked earlier. How is that then the same as a dwarf, or Tolkien dwarf in particular? And that refers back to Gimli in The Two Towers, where he mentions to Eowyn that, can't recall whether that was actually in the book or just a movie adaptation. I think it was referred to in the book, but not quite as explicitly. But he referred to like the males and female dwarves all looking the same, you know, with the beards and stuff. That the common myth is that dwarves just kind of spring up from the ground. And that is, or was at least, the theory known as spontaneous generation, which is where something non-living, like dirt, can give rise to something living. Like scallops, for example, were believed to come from sand. Because if you don't have a microscope, and you've never heard of microscopic teeny tiny larvae of a scallop, then you go, okay, well, where do the scallops come from? Surely they just come from the sand. That is, the sand turns into scallops. And that is kind of the same here with the barnacle geese, where they were believed that they just came from barnacles or gooseneck barnacles. Now the gooseneck barnacles we have here, they are edible, so there are quite a few species in this group that are edible. There are some in North America, off the west coast of North America, where they were eaten by local tribes living along the coast. In Japan as well, there is one that's known as the turtle hand barnacle, because they kind of resemble a turtle's hand, also edible, and some other species in Europe as well, also edible. Now, the gooseneck barnacles are a type of stalked barnacle because you can see the little barnacles at the tip there, and then they've got kind of like a little stalk there. There are a whole bunch of species that have got those, and they're not necessarily all related to one another. They can be very distantly related to one another and all kind of have that characteristic stalk there. And then they're attached to something. Now, one species, the buoy barnacle, they actually are able to detach and then float off on their own by making their own little thing that they float with. But other barnacles, like the gooseneck barnacle here, once they're attached to something, when they are a little larva and they attach onto something, they are stuck. They stay there. So it says there that it attaches to hard surfaces like rocks, and well, if they have cemented themselves to that, they are stuck there. They can't go anywhere after that. They will one day die there. We are now going to be heading out down, I believe, in this direction. Yes, indeed, there goes the oily tendril. Please tell me we are going to encounter gold kelp soon. I really need gold kelp for some nice sprinklers. There's another 8-legged starfish there. We're not going to catch it. We have already caught and donated it. Ooh, is this Mediterranean mussel? Or blue mussel at least? Yeah, it is blue mussel. So yeah, not the Mediterranean mussel. This one is the blue mussel. This is Mytilus edulus. Edulus referring to, well, edible. Because, well, they can be eaten. They are the most commonly grown mussel. So in aquaculture, it does say here, not to be confused with mussel. You know, they are homophones. They sound the same. And this one comes from the sea. Of course, the mussel here has a muscle that keeps the mussel shells shut. And when birds like oyster catchers, for example, eat mussels, they have to cut that muscle to open up the muscle to eat the flesh, including the muscle on the inside. So yeah, how's that for a bit of confusion in terms of mussel and mussel? And I did just remember that I actually have a mastery point here in fishing that I need to spend. I'm actually going to go for quality fish. I would like to catch better quality fish. And then in terms of farming, ooh. So here's the thing now, what do I go for? The crop express here is kind of a problem if you are growing very neat fields and you want to harvest everything neatly and, you know, stuff like that. But we don't need that. We don't really need that at all. We could go for double crop, which is very nice, but we won't worry about that. So maybe we could actually go for this and potentially have faster crops. But, you know, again, I am quite serious in terms of timing it that we have right up to the end of the season actually have some crops available. So maybe we won't go for that, but maybe increasing the selling prices, yeah, maybe, but I don't really care about the money either. Yeah, sure, money makes things easier, but I'm not caring about that. Replant, in terms of an ecological playthrough, replant does make sense, because if you are harvesting crops, there's a chance that you actually leave a seed behind, which is marvelous. That's actually a great idea, so I think I'm going to go for that one, rather than double crop. Double crop we will get next, but for now I think let's go for replant. Because as I mentioned previously, if you let a plant seed, you know, that you have been growing in your garden, that plant that seeds is actually one that do well enough in that particular spot to get to the point where it can flower and set seeds. So you want to perhaps gather those seeds. So we're going to do that in an ecological playthrough. That does make sense. Unfortunately, we have not yet encountered gold kelp. We will probably get gold kelp, hopefully soon. Maybe I'll get that off screen. I'll do a bit of clearing the ocean a wee little bit more. I think we need to go through this area first to get to that area there. That's going to give us gold kelp. Alright, so still a little bit to go. Have to go through the merfolk kingdom first, and then we are going to get gold kelp. I would love to get the gold kelp before the end of the season. And the reason being, then we can have our farms set up in such a way that we incorporate the second level sprinklers. Ooh. What have we got here? That's another little jellyfishy thingy, eh? That's not the flowerhead jelly, is it? It is. It is the flowerhead jelly. Ah, unfortunately. I didn't really want to catch one that I already have, but oh well, we did catch now. We'll have to send it off to a museum so they can have it preserved and have people, scientists, looking at it. So that one is done now, which means we need that one still and these two down here, I guess. But you know what? I'll do those off screen. Actually, I've just cleared the one at the top here, because I thought, why not? That means I just have those two to clear, and then that one, I believe, over there, and then I can move through the merfolk kingdom, and next time will hopefully actually be over here, where we can get gold kelp. I do love the fact that the kelp actually occur at different depths, because we do have in real life different species occurring at different depths. Some species need more light than others, and they will only be found in relatively shallow areas, also areas then that have good light penetration through the water, so not very turbid waters. Other species can grow well under the canopy of taller species, or maybe even in deeper waters. They don't need a lot of sunlight in order to actually grow. There we go, this one is done. Alright, that just leaves these two down here, but I'll do them off screen. For now, let's head home. And you know what, I think that's actually a very good spot to call it a day. So thank you very much everyone for joining me on our little adventure here. Hope you had fun. I had an absolute blast as always. Next time I'll be back with a bit of windrose, and then the time thereafter we'll be back here in Coral Island. We'll actually go offer the blue mussel over here, and then of course we'll go and get some gold kelp, and then hopefully we'll hit autumn/fall and carry on with the next season. So as always, feel free to post any comments down below, anything you'd like to see me do also, and also any questions you may have, please post them down below. And until next time everybody, stay safe. I'll see you all soon. Cheers!